Welcome to the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs, and with us is a voiceover talent, former radio disc jockey, TV announcer. He's still doing TV announcing, and I looked at his resume on his website. If I told you everything he's done, it would take me a couple of hours just to mention it all. It's an honor and a privilege to have with us Jimmy Hodson. Jim, thanks for being with us.
Hello, thank you for having me, Josh.
Cool, and tell us about your life growing up and how you got into the world of voiceover.
Oh, well, I started making films when I was 10, and I never dreamt I'd be on camera, and I always have worked on both sides of the camera, but I kind of liked, recording and doing slideshows and things, so I had made some, church slideshows with my voice recording the narration, and I kind of got an inkling. I remember hearing Ernie Anderson, the voice of ABC, and I thought, that sounds kind of fun, the Winds of War voice. And so I had an inkling, but I didn't really know that there was voiceover. Then I started to listen to the local station here in Orange County called KYMS back in the day, in the 70s. And they had an event at like a racquetball club. And I went there, and I was like, oh, I could meet a disc jockey in person. And they were very nice to me. And there was one named Jim Coy, who was the afternoon drive guy, and he invited me to come to the station and just hang out one Sunday night, and I got to see how all the machines worked, and it was really cool. And then a little bit later, when I was in college, I called him up and said, hey, can I intern for real now? And they gave me an overnight shift and a Sunday shift in the afternoon, and then worked my way up to morning drive. So it was kind of fun. And then I started to realize that you could make more money doing the voiceover than the disc jockeying. Mm-hmm. Didn't have to get up at 4 in the morning either. So, I liked doing the commercials and started writing and producing commercials and got into voiceover that way. It was very, very fun.
Now, what was the format of KYMS at the time? Was it Top 40 CHR? Was it Hot AC, Adult Contemporary, Soft Rock? How would you describe the music mix when you were there?
It was contemporary Christian music. It was the first one in the country, and started kind of an industry, and then they became the number one station. By the time I was on mornings, we were number one in Orange County, at least by 1984, I believe. So yeah, it really took off. It was kind of started a movement, and I did the same thing on the video side of things. In 1984, I co-created a show on TBN called Real Videos, which was the first contemporary Christian music video show. So MTV had started in 1982, and we came along in 84 and had the show, and I went to all the record companies and said, hey, there aren't any contemporary Christian music videos. If we make a show, will you make some videos to play on the show? And they said, yeah, let's do that. So we kind of blazed a trail there. It was very fun.
Yeah, in fact, I remember the show back, I think it was on after the one-win game, which you also announced on TVN, and my school did go down there a couple of times. I never made it myself. I remember the format of the show was basically they gave the answers to the contestants, and you knew they were given the answers because they had like 2.5 weeks to study a certain portion of Scripture, and then the questions would be based upon that. Yeah. And I remember back getting your autograph, and some girl from the other school said, write to your good friend Jimmy Hodson, and you actually wrote that. I was like, I didn't say that. She said that.
That's so funny. Can't even believe you were there. Yeah, that was very fun. That was my first appearance ever in television. I was I think 20 years old or something. It was very funny.
Yeah, and Jim McClellan was such a character, just all goofy and like, what kind of oil was Jesus anointed with? I'll give you a hint. It was not Chanel number 5.
Nice. Yeah, he was fantastic. Very fun to work with. Jim, he's still around. He's up in the Pacific Northwest now, and I owe him a lot.
Cool. Have you talked to him lately?
I just texted him the other day. Yeah, he's doing well. It was his birthday or something. I was wishing him happy birthday. But
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember he was very friendly. Both of you were very friendly, and it was like the two Jims on TV there. And then with Real Videos, what inspired, I mean, obviously MTV was a big inspiration for that show. What else kind of like got you thinking, we got to really do something like this?
Oh, well, right before we did Real Videos, Dan Ruppel, a comedian and now a producer, went on to be at CBS, but he wanted to do a show called Christian Video Music, and so they asked me to be the host of this half-hour pilot. And I was really wooden and stiff, and I think I was wearing a suit, and it was my first time hosting anything myself, and I was terrified. But we did this show, and because he didn't work at TBN, was outside, it kind of fizzled. So then I thought, well, if I get Matt Crouch, the son of the president of the network, involved, maybe we can get it on the air. So I came up with the idea of Real Videos, and then, as I said, went to the record companies and got some product to show, and then it took off. So that was about 6 months after that pilot. But, it was originally Dan's idea, and then we had to take it internally and run with it. But it was... and there was a lot of people were saying, hey, you should do this. People would write in, and people I knew, just friends, would say, you got to do a Christian music video show. So it ran for over 25 years. So it was one of the longest-running TV shows in history. And
did you do it the entire 25 years?
No, I just did it for a year and a half. And then when Matt got married, his wife became the co-host. And I moved on to the Family Channel and did a similar show, but there was a mix of secular and Christian music, music that had a positive message, and that was an hour-long show, but a similar format where we'd travel around, do silly found humor, interview artists, and whatever city we were interviewing them, we would do another show there. So
and that show was Videosyncrasy, correct?
Yes. Videosyncrasy. Yeah, that was in 1990 and 91. And we did 64 hours. It was...
Wow.
It was a fun show. And a few primetime specials. Got to do shows with Harry Connick Jr. and Michael Bolton, Amy Grant, and all kinds of people. Yeah, it was fun.
That's great. Now, did you have to relocate east to do that show, or did you get to stay here in Southern California?
No, I still lived here in Southern California, in L.A., and then I would fly back once a month, and we would crank out shows or fly to New York or Vancouver or wherever we were shooting that week. So it was a very fun way to travel on someone else's dime.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And now, when you were doing KYMS, who are your, I guess, the DJs that you were closest with there? Because I got to interview Dale Berg a couple of months ago. And anybody else that you got to become lifelong friends with there?
Well, mostly Scott Rummel, the top voiceover guy in the world. He's the movie trailer voice of all the Disney Marvel movies. You've heard him on everything, and he's been the voice of most every network. But he was a salesman at KYMS at the time. I already knew him because my first job was selling souvenirs at Angel Stadium, and he worked there too. And then we both ended up working at KYMS. And there was Bill Ewing trained me on overnights, and then there was Jamie Mayberry did afternoon drives, and Greg Fast was on the mornings. Wayne McAllister was there. Jim Hilliker helped me a lot and trained me. He's quite the L.A. radio historian himself.
Oh, yeah, I've heard his name before.
Dave Spiker was just on the way out when I was coming in. And it was a good group of people there. Yeah, it was very fun. And I remember I did a Saturday night show for a couple of years, like a top 40 countdown kind of show. That was fun. But
did you ever work with Kevin Allison, who did a rock show called The Ground Floor?
No, it was Gord Driver when I was there. So he was doing the more heavy metal show on Saturday night. He came on after me. The funny story is my first day, they gave me the Sunday afternoon shift. It was a big promotion to come out into the daylight hours. And the studio was in an office complex, and there was a central atrium where the restroom was. I thought, I better go to the restroom before doing my shift. So I ran out to the restroom, and the door slammed behind me, and there was no key on the restroom key.
Oh, no.
And it was my first day, and I can't break the glass. It had the etched KYMS on the glass, and I'm the new kid, I can't break. I don't know, and there were no cell phones yet, so the only person I knew was Scott Rummel by name. So I drove down to the phone booth and called him and said, "I'm locked out of the station. I'm on the air, and I'm this dead air now. I don't know what to do." So he called Greg Fast, who was the program manager. And he came like a half an hour later. The phone was lit up like a Christmas tree of people saying, "What's going on?" But it was it had come on after some taped show that they had recycled the tapes so you could hear the end of the show, and then there was the end of another show and the end of another show, and it was, then it's silence for half an hour until so when Greg got there, he said, "Next time, just break the glass." Next time there was a key on the restroom key for the front door.
I have some sort of, now this is just a conspiracy theory, that architects have some sort of vendetta against radio people, because it just seems like every single radio station, the bathroom is so far away from the studio.
Oh, yeah, and then I think I told you we did a talk show at KKLA with my old friend Dr. Craig Johnson. It was on Sunday nights, and the air conditioning was turned off all weekend, so we would come into the KKLA studios and just sweat like pigs. Because radio guys don't need air conditioning, just turn it off. Yeah.
Well, now I work there, and the air conditioning is on for the weekend, at least on our floor, but back then it was not. Yeah, I remember those days when it was just, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? I mean, they couldn't at least isolate the air conditioning for this floor. That show, by the way, was called Introspective. Tell us about that program that you hosted with Dr. Craig Johnson.
Yeah, we did it on Sunday nights, and he would have a variety of guests, a lot of apologetics and interesting teachers, and everyone from Stan Freberg to Dr. Walter Martin, and we would come in. I would do the intros, he would do the interviews. Mm-hmm. It was really a fun time. Yeah, we did that for a good year or two. And they came in studio, or were they on the phone mostly? Mostly in studio. I think we always were in studio with the guest. Yeah, they would. Yeah, it was very fun. They would have to sweat like pigs as well. So you got to Stan Freberg. The radio is the theater of the mind. I mean, to meet someone like him, that would have been great for anybody. Yeah, and I had worked on a show called Nightlight with his daughter, so we shot at his house a few times, so I got to meet him a number of times and go into his basement archive office. It was just packed with memorabilia. It was really fun. He was quite the character, very encouraging and cool guy. In fact, I remember hearing some of his interviews. His dad was actually a minister, I think. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah. What were some other really awesome guests you got to meet over the years during your radio days? Well, I did a lot of shows with Randy Stonehill and Stryper. I've helped them with their first video, but we had them on the radio as well. I got to do like an actual vinyl album with Stryper as an interview, which was very fun. And they gave me a gold record, which I have on my office wall to this day. But by far the best guest I ever had and got to know was Amy Grant, because she was the queen of Christian music and then crossed over into the pop world somewhat, and rather successfully. But I interviewed her probably 8 or 9 times, and I've run into her many times just socially as well. But she was, extremely magnanimous and generous, both on radio and television. On both series that I hosted, she was just a wonderful guest and always jumped at the chance to be on, and it was a really, really fun friendship and, sweet memories with her. And then on the television side, it was fun doing shows with, Michael Bolton and Harry Connick Jr. and people. And then I got my favorite interview, though. We did a show in Toronto, and I got to interview John Candy. Oh, he was the nicest guy in the world, and so generous and hilarious. And I could have talked with him for hours, but he, anything we asked him to do, little promos, he's like, sure, yeah. He was so nice and fun. It was really, yeah. And
And John Candy, for a while, even has his own syndicated radio show. It was heard locally in Los Angeles on 97.1 KLSX Sunday mornings. And they had the jingle, Radio Candy. Hi, it's John Candy here, and we're playing some of your favorite classic rock here on the radio. And I always kind of got John Candy and John Madden confused because they're both similarly built and their voices sound the same. In fact, in the movie Summer Rental, they said, hey, look, it's John Madden. And it's like, okay, so I guess Candy kind of got that joke too. But I remember after he passed away, he's one of the few celebrities that actually cried when they died. But somebody wrote into either TV Guide or the TV Times, and they said, I was an usher or a backstage person at the Academy Awards for several years. And she said, John Candy, I got to escort him to his seat as well as a bunch of others. And she said he was the nicest guy and one of the few people that actually said thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was a wonderful man, greatly missed.
I wish somebody would do like a book on him, or I know they've done a documentary. It features his widow as well as his two kids, and it's on YouTube, and it's really just I would definitely recommend that.
I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Now, did you get to meet him in person or on the phone, or actually that's right, in person?
Oh yeah, it was in person. Yeah, we were on the field of the Toronto Argonauts Canadian Football League game, and he was one of the owners. So.
That's right. In fact, the documentary talks about how the championship came about when he was the owner of the team, and he was really heavily involved in it. In fact, he's what drew crowds to the game. In fact, that was the coolest thing about it.
Yeah, he really worked the crowd, and they loved him. It was you could really sense that synergy. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And
then also they said that he was offered a huge contract to jump ship from SCTV to join the cast as a not ready for primetime player on NBC's Saturday night. But he said, you know what, I'm dedicated to SCTV. So what ended up happening was NBC actually picked up SCTV for about 2 years at the 12:30 to 1:30 a.m. slot late Saturday, early Sunday, following SNL.
Oh, yeah. I watched it all the time.
That show was a great show. You're listening to The Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs. Our guest is Jimmy Hodson, voiceover talent. And next time, Jim will talk about his journey from TBN to the Family Channel.